Good morning, Symmetry Financial Group. My name is Zack Little, and I am a regional agency director here at Symmetry. I'm directed to Sean Monteith, part of the Monteith Watkins hierarchy, and extremely blessed to be so. And first and foremost, I want to give a big shout out to the founders for trusting us on this call. Brandon, Casey, and Brian, we thank you. And I've got a couple other leaders with me who are going to help us talk about ways to connect the dots and how to communicate properly. And I've got on this call agency owner Victoria Shiu, and I've also got Nate Benoit, who is a key leader here at Symmetry. And you know, we talk a lot about this business, how communication is everything in this business. And not only do we need to be a good communicator with our uplines, but we've got to be a good communicator with ourselves. We've got to be good communicators with our downlines, with our teams. We've got to be good communicators with our family, our friends, our kids, and everybody else who is going to be in our lives day to day. And one thing I love that Danny Young says is we are not in the sales business. We are in the communication business. And the better you communicate, the better your future is going to look. And so I'm going to start from the beginning. When we start in this business, the first person we're going to communicate with is our uplines. And the way that looks, being a good communicator is being coachable, being a good listener. And most of the times when we start here, we've got bad habits, or we've got habits that prevent that. And I myself was one of those people who had to adjust the way I was communicating to be successful. And, you know, maybe in the past you were very independent. I know a lot of times when real estate agents or other forms of sales come in, they've been used to communicating on their own. Or maybe you've been in your position for 20 plus years, and so you didn't have a whole lot of questions that you needed to answer. But being in this position, especially in the beginning, communication is key. And so we're going to need guidance. We're going to need things that are going to help us along this journey. And one thing that will help us communicate in the beginning is having a good schedule. A schedule that can be looked at for friends, for family, for upline. This is something that's going to help us keep our week to week, our day to day moving forward. And this is something that I see a lot of new agents. This is a particular area where we really got to make adjustments. And as an example of this, if I have appointments on a Wednesday, and yet I've also got to pick my daughter up from tumbling practice on Wednesday because I didn't have that schedule or that communication, that's obviously going to put us in a tough spot. And so what I want to talk about is how we can set ourselves up by communicating and using a schedule to put us in the proper position. Now, having the family on the same page is going to help everything run smooth. It's going to help your production, and it's going to help your downline also. Now, some ways that we can schedule with our upline is making sure that we're always on the same page, having a schedule, making sure that they understand when and where we will be for our appointments, and making sure that we have properly diagnose what the appointment will be. So checking in with your upline is key. Now, in 2017, when I started in this business, I got put on the right foot because Sean had me set up a schedule that was going to be completely between myself and him. So he knew exactly when those appointments were going to be. He also had me send him an email with all the qualifications, all the medications, and everything we would need for those appointments. And most importantly, he had me check in before the appointments right when I showed up to make sure that I was on his radar and he could help me. And I remember my first day in the field, this is actually my first week, I had set 10 appointments, and I got to my first appointment, met with my first clients. Everything went very smooth, exactly like we game planned for, exactly on the same times, but I was not very proficient on writing those applications yet. So it took me a little while to actually get the application correct, gather the information that we needed, and make sure that I didn't have any issues. Doing this caused me to be late for my next appointment. And so what I did, using good communication with the clients, I sent them a message letting them know that I'd be arriving in 15 minutes. And then when I got there, I sent my upline, Kashan, a message that I was there. And I entered that appointment with the game plan. At this point, I knew of a high blood pressure medication and I knew of a cholesterol medication. So I had a plan for a living promise for this client. But the thing was, once I got into the appointment and we really started qualifying them, they actually released a little bit of information that threw a curveball at me. They said, Zach, when we were on the phone, we didn't feel comfortable saying this, but 6 months ago, I was diagnosed with dementia. Now, this is not going to be the way that I originally was planning on going. And so I knew I needed help. And because of that communication, sending that text to my upline, he was ready to answer the call. We got a plan together. We figured out exactly what was going to help the client and protect their house and themselves. But this was back in 2017. I wasn't doing e-apps yet. This was all paper apps at this point. And so I didn't have the correct application with me, but because of the good communication and the rapport with the client, they let me use their printer. We printed off the application, got everything taken care of. But about halfway through that appointment, I realized I was going to be very late for my final appointment. I was going to be about an hour late. And so I asked the client, hey, can I make a quick call just to let the future appointment know that I will be running a little bit late? And they said, no problem. I called the client. They also said, no problem. They were going to be around their house, show up when I was ready. And so because of that communication, again, it put me in position to have success in that next appointment. Now I showed up to the next appointment. I followed the instructions. I sent Kashan a text message, let him know that I was entering my final appointment. If I needed anything, I would give him a call. I got into that appointment, started talking with the client. In that day, I thought I was going to be using a TLE, a Term Life Express, to help the client with a term. But during that appointment, he started talking about cash value. He started talking about permanent policies. He started talking about universal life. And at that point, I did not have a lot of background, but I knew somebody who did, my upline. And I gave my upline a call. He helped me communicate what the benefits were, what policies we could use, and how we could help him build that cash value they were looking for. Now, throughout that day, there were plenty of ways where communication could have broken down. It could be put me in a tough position. I could have showed up late and the client wasn't ready for it or wasn't happy about it. But because we followed those steps of using a schedule, making sure that we had game plan to know what option A and option B were, and also contacting my upline before the appointment started, we were able to successfully write over 4,000 APV with 4 applications. One of my first successful days in this business, and using communication helped me be successful that first week. And we have some other examples from some other leaders who have done some of the same things. And I'm going to ask Victoria Shiu, agency owner Victoria Shiu, what are some ways that you've used good communication to help you connect the dots?
Thanks, Zach. So I'm Victoria Shiu, direct to Kashan and Johanna Monteith. And as far as communicating with myself, I kind of relate it to going to a training camp. So I'm sure if you think about this when I'm going through it, it's going to make a lot more sense. So I played basketball when I was younger. And when I played basketball, one of the requirements was going to all the practices. Make sure you're at all the practices. No questions asked. Unless you're sick, you're at practice. Also to read up on things, right? So how do I dribble? What's the best way to do that? What do people think about when they shoot a free throw? It's a mental game. Practice, even when there's no practice scheduled. So on the weekends, I would be playing basketball. I would be bettering my skills. I would be practicing dribbling with my left hand. Training camp. So let's relate this to Symmetry and what we do at Symmetry. So we're at training camp. We just started out. We're a new agent. We need to be on all the conference calls. We need to constantly going through self-improvement, reading professional books, reading self-development books, something that's going to improve us professionally and personally. We need to dial, even when there is no dial team. A lot of times we hear, this is the best time to dial. This is the best time to dial. But guess what? If you don't have any appointments, anytime is the best time to dial, because that's the only way you're going to get an appointment. So let's relate those two things. When I was younger, playing basketball, going through that training camp, I wanted to be the best basketball player I could be. I wanted to be on the starting team. Nobody was paying me. It was just this innate desire. It was part of my character. So when I come to Symmetry, I want to do that same thing. I'm not being told by anybody that I need to do anything. They're telling me, here is what is required to be this, a process. So I'm going to follow a process. So what do these two things have in common? If I'm able to push myself to be the best at something during a sport or some activity in my life, why would I not do the same thing with Symmetry? So the relationship between those two examples, it's your character and your mentality. So when I first started dialing, I did not need a video or a song to motivate me because I just had a lot of internal motivation. But like everyone else, the more you do it, sometimes my own mental motivation just doesn't get the job done. And so what do? Well, my husband, Wade, uses a video and it motivates him. And at first I'm just like, nah, I don't need that. I can do this without it. But then I would hear him do it again. And I'm like, oh, I bet you I could use that video today. So I started watching the video before I dialed, before activity. And it's called lion mentality. So I want you to think about yourself and where do you see yourself while I go through this video a little bit. The lion is the king of the jungle. He's not the biggest. The elephant is probably one of the biggest. He can't be the fastest because that's the cheetah. He can't be the smartest. So he's not the biggest, the fastest, or the smartest. So how does the lion become the king of the jungle? His mentality. When a lion sees an elephant, he thinks lunch. An elephant thinks run. It's all mentality. What happens if I'm a gazelle? I'm not being pushed or prodded, not getting a reward, nobody's encouraging me. The lion stops chasing me, I stop running. Not going to dial today, just not feeling it. I've got a couple appointments, but I'm not going to be on this conference call. Nobody's checking on me. If I'm a lion, it doesn't make a difference. I realize that if my family wants to eat or survive, what do I need to do? I need to hunt. Lions love to hunt. They love the process just as much as they love the prize. So when you are a true hunter, you don't go by time. I'm going to dial from 4 to 7. You go by the gazelle. When you're a true hunter, you hunt until you get that gazelle, and you don't stop until you get one. Then you get another and another and another. I didn't get where I am today being in gazelle mode. I am where I am because I'm in lion mode. I follow the whole process. I love the process. So these skills, where do you see yourself? Are you the lion or are you the gazelle? These skills that I use myself to improve my mentality and my communication, they can't be taught. No one's going to teach me how to do this. I take ownership of my own business. I take ownership of my activity. I don't wait for people to tell me what to do. I find it for myself. I make mistakes. People help me fix them. I invest in myself deeply by my activity, my attendance on calls, my personal development, and it shows in my results. I am entrepreneurial. I get things done. Are these things that you're saying every day to yourself when you wake up every morning? What we set our minds on will shape the person we become and the life that we experience. I don't want to be a gazelle. I want to be the lion. I want to be the one who is hunting. I made a 90-day blitz book because we are in a 90-day blitz in our agency. And on my page, when I watch this video, I put hunt because that's what I'm doing every time I dial my clients. I'm hunting. I'm trying to find that one who we're going to connect together, and I'm going to be able to help protect them. We must master the battle in our mind. The battle is the difference between hearing something and doing something about it. So are you going to do something about it? I suggest you do it and you get yourself in lion mode. Now, I say all of that, and it sounds like it comes out easy. It's hard. It's hard. Your innate mentality, your mentality each and every day. But what's going to make it better? Doing this every single day, not just on Monday, not just on Wednesday. I'm going to get up every morning. I'm going to read my books. I'm going to tell myself I'm the lion, and I'm going to go on the hunt. And when I'm in appointment, that's when I'm going to actually get that gazelle, because now the prize is done. But I can't just show up and expect to get the prize, because the hunt and the prize, that's the whole process of symmetry. We hear all the time, follow the process. It's true. Follow the process. On your good days, on your bad days, on your sad days, on your losing days, on days you just feel, I don't want to do anything. That's when you are going to get better. When you watch something, when you listen to something that's going to improve your mentality day in and day out. That is what makes you strong. That is how I talk to myself. And the third piece of communication is going to be with our clients, right? We can't just communicate with our upline and communicate to ourselves. We actually have to go into that appointment, whether it's in home or on Zoom. We have to be able to have that communication. And here to help us talk about communication with the client is key leader, Nate Benoit.
Hi, guys. Can you hear me okay? So yeah, Nate Benoit, direct to Kevin and Jen Schmidt in Zack Little's organization. You know, when they had talked to me about this, about talking on this point, they asked, you know, the whole point was, what's a good communicator? Now, a lot of people could think about a communicator and be like, this is somebody who is really good at talking. This is somebody who has a ton of information, tells a really good story. Sure, I'm sure that stuff is all involved in being a good communicator. But how much communication can happen when there's only one side to it? Relatively little. What I think makes a really good communicator is somebody who knows how to draw out communication also from the other person. I learned pretty early on in this business that it was only the weakest agents who would come in talking features and benefits, you know, or even worse, sell on price. If you want chargebacks in your life, by all means, sell on features and benefits. It all starts on the phone with the client. Now we can practice and polish our script and our delivery, and we can say it over and over and over again. But at the end of the day, I learned, at least for myself, that the strongest appointments were where I knew how to ask the best questions. I would talk to a person and we would do our best from the start of the phone call to figure out, why is this important to you? So I would use a process, and you're going to hear the word process over and over again, because I do the same thing every single time. I would ask a person these questions to start to narrow things down. You know, hey, do both of you work? If only one of you works, that makes some sense to me. If both of you work, who makes a bigger percent of the income? If something happened to that person, does the remaining person have enough income to make things work? If not, what's the impact? And then I learned something from Zack Little, and really everything from a call that I've heard ever since. I shut my mouth, which is maybe something I ought to do even more than I already do. But I let people fill in the gaps. They'd say, whoa, man, that'd be hard. That's not enough. So I would ask another question. Now I could, yeah, I've done this thousands of times. I could be like, well, listen here, client, you're going to have childcare expenses. You're going to have medical bills, you're going to blah, 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 blah. And then a person is going to tune out. Like, yep, got it. Where's this conversation going? I used to worry a lot about, hey, is this phone call taking too long? Do you know when people don't look at their wristwatches? When they're the ones talking. No, it's just like, man, I really wish I would hurry up and say this faster. Oh, nobody cares about that. I would ask a question and a person would fill me in. I try and do a relatively small amount of the talking, just enough to direct the conversation where it needs to go. It's the same in the home. I've learned to use a very powerful tool called the financial fire drill, which does involve me asking questions. But at the end of that fire drill, what is communicated to the client is basically them painting their own picture. I did very little talking. They said, yep, my expenses are this, our income's this. I just asked, so one of those incomes is gone. What's the plan? Shut my mouth. And I will just stare at people because I am, as much of a jerk as that makes me for putting them and making them feel uncomfortable, I'll tell them, man, I am way less of a jerk than death is. Death isn't gonna give you an easy out. It's not gonna let your spouse who just died bail you out with the answers of where the bank accounts are, what the passwords are. It's just gone. I need this to not be the first time you talked about this today. I'm sorry, I need the first time that you think about this, not be the day it happens. All of us have spent a fair amount of time reading very, very gripping insurance terminology and law. So very exciting. No, it isn't. And you know what? Our clients, I can hop in my car and I can drive somewhere. And when I get back home, I can shut that key off and I do not know what happens between the ignition and the tires. I do know that if I get in my car and turn the key every time, it's gonna take me to where I need to go. I don't know how it works, but I do know that it works. Our clients don't need to know every single facet of life insurance. That's my job. They need to know that I know my job, but they don't need to know how to do the job. That's why they brought me in as an expert. Well, the journey we need to go on together is it's a process. Everybody wants how much does it cost? How much does it cost? Yep, great. It's a process. You can't go from point A to Z, not even as the person. You have to lead them on that journey, even with things that they already know, so that you can connect those dots. Because then they'll finally get to the same place you are. I just had a short glimpse of what those emotions might look like. And oh my goodness, even though I knew that stuff, I knew I made most of the money. I knew we had these expenses. I never connected those dots before. And now I have. And the communication hit its goal. That's why I feel like I've had success in becoming a better communicator with my clients. I would encourage everybody who learns how to become a good communicator to never do themselves or their clients disservice of skipping the process. There's always the temptation, like, ooh, this guy's in a rush. Ooh, these people seem impatient. I better skip that whole financial fire drill. Better do it. Don't do it. It's the same as skipping the why on the phone. You can, but if it wasn't important enough to talk about for a minute on a phone call, real good chances are it's not going to be important enough for them to show up to the call. So figure it out sooner than later. If this isn't important to them, let them tell you early and move on to somebody else that really wants to know. The final bit of my communication that I do with my clients is my own personal dedication to being their agent, not only just at the time of the sale, but as the years pass on. We do unfortunately work in an industry that has an incredibly high turnover rate. And there are so many people that don't know who their agent is. I don't, if I need to call, who do I call? I could dig up that policy that I buried under a mountain of paperwork and then lost. I don't even know who my policy is, but nope. Every single time they know in their phone, Nate Life Insurance. That's who to call. But I don't always leave the onus on them to contact me. I track using spreadsheets. It's an illness, but I love spreadsheets. And I track how long has it been since and it's not always just follow up for the next sales opportunity. I am pretty good at what I do. I usually find what there is available within the budget. I talk to these people because I want to know how they're doing. And man, do they appreciate knowing that it wasn't just a sales and he's done kind of guy. I follow up, and it has made my business stronger. I have very, very few chargebacks, if ever any. And I have had so many people go on to refer more of their family to me, or we worked out new solutions to keep protecting them just because they thought, I have a guy. I've had clients call me back saying, we just had somebody try and sell us insurance and we told them to go take a hike because we have a guy. I don't think I would be that guy, as charming as I am, if it was just one appointment that we had talked at. But I talked to, I send them a text. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, a text or a short phone call every 6 months to a year. How you doing? How are the kids? How's that dog? It's little things like that. And you build a strong relationship with your people, and a strong relationship with your clients. It's a strong business. So that's about all I have to say about that. The only other little itty bitty tidbit, I know some people after the application's signed, they're terrified to talk to their clients again. Like, oh boy, I better not call them up or they'll remember that they're spending money and they're going to change their minds. I learned from Mr. Kashan Monteith, the chances of them keeping the business actually go up dramatically if you stay in contact with them. They didn't forget, but they do want to, they sometimes they need the reassurance. Yep, this is still in process, it's still moving. You want to be the first one to find out if the client has a problem, because they have it whether you talk to them or not. So keep in communication with your clients and your business will stay strong. Zach?
Awesome. Thank you very much, Victoria Shiu, Nate Benoit. And just remember, communication is key in this business. The better you communicate, the better your relationships will be. Thank you, Symmetry, and we'll see you soon.